Hey, welcome to 11 versus 11. I'm Adam Turner, Stan USMNT. With me is Mr. Calcio. And hey, we're back to debate, analyze, and break down everything going on in the USMNT world. All right, hey, let's jump right in. No time to waste. We've got a roster coming out in a couple days. Looks like Friday or maybe Saturday. I heard a rumor about. And let's break down what we think is going to happen here. I'm super excited to see the USMNT back in action. It's been a few months now, and there's a lot going on right now. Just in the USMNT world, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of action. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing. I mean, if I remember right, they're playing El Salvador on Thursday, January 27th. And then there's Canada versus USA on January 30th. And then it caps off with USA Honduras on February 2nd. So, I mean, that's, a game essentially every 3 days.
We go Columbus, then up to Canada, Hamilton, Ontario, and then out to Minnesota, which did you see any of the clips of that? It was like a Vikings game or something like that. And it was like an ice bowl. Dudes just had like snow in their beards. And
I hope that doesn't play against us, but I can tell you right now that the players from Honduras won't be very happy with that weather. So.
Yeah, I feel like our team's going to be, like a 7 out of 10 miserable if it's really cold. And they're just going to be like more miserable than they've ever been in their entire lives, right?
Exactly,
like, chances they play, and I'll just say this. I don't want to go too hard into this, but like it was a little extreme, like I felt like we could have gotten it done in Kansas City and it could have had a similar effect, but like we would have been like, 2 out of 10 in pain, and they still would have been like a 7 out of 10, and we could, like, my worry is if we can't really play, which it would have
or
to
if the game gets canceled because the weather's too too crappy.
The game gets canceled, but yeah, we'll see, man. It's going to be interesting, right? I just really hope it doesn't bite. I hope that decision doesn't bite us, but let's jump into the roster. We're going to go back to front. Cal's got his picks and he's got an image and I've got an image. So we'll both share them as we're talking. Cal, why don't you kick it off with who you have at goalkeeper? And this should be pretty straightforward, but let's just run through it here.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I think the 3 goalkeepers are going to be Zach Steffen, Sean Johnson, and Matt Turner. I think the number 1 was established in the Mexico game. I think it's Zach Steffen 100%. Maybe Matt Turner will get a chance to play in one of the matches, but I expect Zach Steffen to be the number 1, if not at least 2 of the matches, if not all 3.
Yeah, I think it's Zach's job as well. I have these exact same 3. I think Johnson seems to be like the primary third guy at this point. Horvath's totally out of form. He also just hasn't really been with the team recently. And so Johnson seems to be the guy that's kind of your fill-in, throw him in third, and he'll probably never play. I think Steffen's the one. I actually just think Steffen's my one right now, too, in my head. I feel it's close, right? There's different strengths, different weaknesses, but I've really come to a point where I liked Zach Steffen last year, too. Turner grew on me a lot. I don't feel terrible with him in net. I feel like he does a lot of really good things, but Steffen just kind of seems to be our one. I think until he does something right to like put Turner back in between the posts, which he hasn't, and like I was somewhat critical of, the goal he let up against Costa Rica. I thought that one was a bit soft. The howler against Jamaica and Antonio, you can't really do much about that. We can argue about it, but you can't. No. If you really, and I have broken this down a lot, like Steffen is creating some interaction with his feet that we just don't get with Turner. And, and it's not, 10, 15 times a game, but there are 4 or 5 passes he's making with his feet that are really nice and nice to have. And in the game of soccer, like I talk about all the time on my videos, it's not about 80 times. Sometimes 5 or 6 things added in is enough value to make it worthwhile. And Steffen's just not that far behind as a shot stopper. So I got the same 3. I also have Steffen in net. And I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about Steffen or Turner, though. I feel like we could throw either of those 2 guys in and we have some value there.
Yeah, and I would the last thing on that is I think Turner giving the ball away with his feet, he can sort of get away with it in the CONCACAF world. But I think a lot of people will start realizing when we see those type of mistakes under against better opponents that we're going to definitely see if we qualify for the World Cup. You can't afford the mistakes that we see Turner do, and he did during the Gold Cup when he was the starting keeper, and then he did in some of the qualifiers. He continues to get away with it. We won't get away with that in the big games. And I think internationally at any senior level now or top leagues, all the goalkeepers are the requirement is to have good feet. Like that's no longer oh wow, that keeper's got great feet. It's now mandatory. All right, well let me get into defenders.
Yeah, and speaking of, a position that is starting to need and be mandatory to be able to play with your feet at the highest level, center back, right? Who do we have at center back on your chart?
So, I mean, I'll talk quickly about the center backs. Yeah, so I'm bringing back John Brooks. I don't think that there's any. I think if McKennie was allowed to come back after kind of having a fallout with Berhalter, bad performances both at the USMNT level as well as with Juve, and he's kind of turned that all around. I think a player like John Brooks, who's got World Cup experience, who's back in the starting lineup at Wolfsburg and having some good performances, should be back. Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson, I think both have shown that they can be trusted in the back. I think Berhalter likes them, so I also think that they're going to get the call up. And then Chris Richards. I think these are our four best center backs, and Richards has looked great since going to Hoffenheim. He's continued his performance. He continues to get better. He's definitely, up there as our best passer at the center back position. He can play with both feet. He can play on a 3 in the back. He can play in 4 in the back. So I feel good with all four of these guys at the center back position. I wouldn't be surprised if a fifth one gets called up, but I think in my head, these four 100% need to get called up.
Yeah, if you flip over to mine, and I'll take everybody through what I see. And so, I mean, this is what I would do at center back. And I kind of have who I would start in here as well. I would go Brooks and Robinson. I think Robinson right now, and it's really tough for me. I think Richards is probably overall the more quality player and will be the more quality player. But I think Robinson has been really good for us, and I think he complements Brooks really, really well. I think he can cover for Brooks in a way that that really nobody else in our pool can, other than maybe a healthy Aaron Long has some of that same ability. And Miles is playing well. I got to give him a lot of props. I had Richards over him for a lot of the summer and even into the fall. And I think he's grown on me in a way that I think right now, currently, he's he's the best guy to put there, and it's close. If Richards was starting, I would not have a problem with that. I feel really good about him, but I feel like Robinson has kind of a swagger with the USMNT right now. And he has like a, built up confidence. And that happens on national teams sometimes, right? Where like club form and what club you're at doesn't always matter exclusively. I do, however, totally different conversation. I think Robinson, I want to see him move though. I really want to see him move and challenge himself because I think he can take his game to another plane. But hey, for right now, he's there, and we'll see how it works out. And then I have Zimmerman too. I think that, what's interesting to me is thinking about, do you think Greg will do anything different at goalkeeper or center back than what we have?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest, I disagree. And I think that my center back lineup is going to be Robinson and Richards. I think if Brooks comes back, I think part of what he's got to have to prove to Berhalter and the team, and this is what I've heard, is that he can be a backup. He can start on the bench. And because I think the last time we were out there with Mexico, we played Richards and Robinson, and they were good. So why change something that's worked? A partnership that has, chemistry. I think they both complement each other as well, with Chris Richards being the better passer, just like Brooks is, and then Robinson having that speed that you mentioned as well. So I actually think he's going to go with that and see if Brooks is okay, at least for that first match, to come off the bench, because I feel like either come off the bench or just not start.
Do you think Richards is better than Brooks?
I think that Richards right now, Brooks is a better defender. He just has, because of that experience factor. And if I had to pick, if the World Cup was tomorrow, right? I think I would probably, and they had chance to play with each other throughout the year, I would put Brooks and Richards maybe, just from a perspective of like comfort, right? And I feel like that could be the future going into the World Cup. However, I feel like right now, based on the hierarchy on the team, based on where Brooks's head is with Berhalter and their relationship, I think the best center back duo is Richards and Robinson. Again, I think Richards is getting better every single day, but I still, yeah.
Given Triple G, I see your point, but if we're sitting here saying, Adam Turner's the coach of, USMNT, I just think Brooks does. I think he is I think he's more crafty with the way he defends than these guys. I know people put these mistakes on him, and honestly, I just watch him too much, right, with his club, with Wolfsburg, to understand what he does game in, game out, right? He had a short bad run of form. Everybody does. Everybody has bad runs of form. It's so extreme to take the guy that I personally think is our best center back right now. I just don't think there's any arguing that. And especially because I think what we're going to need to do in 2 of these games, maybe 3, right, is I think we're going to have to break down defenses that are going to be trying to sit back on us, right? And I think that, the more you watch teams like Bayern, and you watch teams like the best teams in the world, right, over the course of however many years, and you watch the best center backs, Bayern sticks out because I've been watching a lot of them recently in their back line, especially, Upamecano, who's ridiculous at this. He just unlocks defenses that are sitting back trying to park the bus, and he'll make one pass that unlocks the sequence that leads to a goal. And I think, like, right now for us, we've been missing that. We were missing that against Jamaica away, right? When we had, I think it was Zimmerman, right, playing with Robinson, and neither of those guys could make that pass. Robinson's gotten better at making the passes 15 to 20 yards, but he has no ability to make passes beyond that at a high rate. And so I like, if I'm in, it's got to be Brooks, but it's close right now. And to be honest, I could see Triple G starting Zimmerman. He loves Zimmerman. And then the other thing I could see Triple G doing is I could see him bringing Long, who's, has been in the training camp. Maybe he brings him as a 5th center back. I don't think he'll bring him over the 4 guys we've listed, but I could see him bringing him as a 5th center back, just as kind of a quality kind of insurance piece, which I don't know. I don't love it. I mean, I don't know. It's his guy, and it is what it is. But I wouldn't like that move if it happened. But any other center backs?
Well, I think I'm curious to hear what people think is going to be in the first match, against El Salvador at home, who people think, who that center back pairing is going to be, because quite frankly, that's the easiest match, I think, out of all 3. So there's you probably have room for experimentation if you want, or I think it's going to be an easy decision. The question will be who plays against Canada in the second game away, because I think that's obviously going to be our toughest game. But no, that's it. Tell me about your wing backs. Or fullbacks.
Fullback. I've got Serginho Dest coming back, much needed. His creativity is going to be much needed, along with Jedi on the other side, who's just been unbelievable. And it's such a good case study for why championship or the second tier of Germany can be a good year for someone, right? Like, I think this has been a really good year for Anthony Robinson. I'm not saying I wouldn't rather him be at a higher level, but I think he's gotten a lot out of this year, right? Playing for the top side, right? And playing really well and gaining a ton of confidence. And it's a good level, it's not an elite level, but it's a good level. And so he's just been on fire. To me, those 2 guys have to be the starters. They're like 1 and 2 right now and pretty locked in for me. And then other than that, I've got, I think this is where I would go a little bit deeper here. I went deeper at certain positions because of COVID, because we don't know, who's going to get, potentially get a positive. And then, the thing I don't want, I'll just preface this as we go into all these positions. I don't want us calling in an American-based guy 2 days before the first game because we didn't call enough guys into the actual camp itself, right? And I know we have this Phoenix camp, and so that kind of like would lessen that blow a little bit. but I want our best players there. I want our real first team there. This is a real deal game. And I don't want, if Yedlin goes down, I don't want, if Reggie Cannon actually is the best fifth fullback, I don't want us calling in someone else, Juwan Jones, whoever, because we didn't call Reggie in originally, right? And so I've got Yedlin and Cannon in. I think probably I would see one of those two guys, probably Yedlin, based on what Triple G likes. But I like Yedlin too. He gives a solid performance. See him in one of the 3 games. And then on the other side, I would bring Scally. I don't know how game ready Scally is really going to be, but I would bring him because I just want him to be a part of it. I think he's a part of this cycle. He's a big part of 2022. And I just want him there, and if he can play some minutes off the bench, great. If you rotate him in for one game because he's actually, in pretty good form and pretty good shape, great. But I want Joe Scally. And so those are my 5.
Yeah, I mean, mine's pretty, I'll pull mine up. Mine's pretty much the same. The one thing that I brought in, I was looking else at current form and who's playing good minutes. So, Reggie Cannon, I think, has started to get has had some good games recently for Boa Vista. I think I could easily see both Yedlin and Cannon being called up as a little bit more defensive right backs, considering there's 3 games. But I like Cannon, but I could easily see Yedlin get called. Same thing with Scally. I'm not sure he's there. He's going to get called up because of COVID, and I feel like he's only had 1 call up and no caps during World Cup qualifying. He hasn't come in yet, so I'm wondering if Berhalter is going to say, "Hey, let's wait till the next one when he's got more minutes." But I think Sam Vines should maybe get called up. He's been playing consistently for Royal Antwerp. Bello really didn't show very well, in my opinion. The last camp he was called in. So, if Scally gets called up, I would be more than happy, and I think that's fine. I'm not sure he would get tons of minutes anyways. If we had to call up another natural left back, I would look at Sam Vines over Bello or DeJuan Jones. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Anthony Robinson. I agree with you. I think Des is back and he's healthy, and I think he needs a confidence boost after what's going on with him in Barcelona, and maybe get some eyes on him for a potential loan transfer move in January if that's going to happen. So yeah, I think pretty much we're aligned there.
Yeah, and I think CONCACAF's just a great place for Des to do that, especially playing Honduras and we're playing El Salvador. Those are perfect opponents for him to go in and his stuff really goes off against teams like that. We saw that both in the Costa Rica game and I believe the Jamaica game. Like, he was really good in both of those games, the last window he played. And I feel like he's going to have 2 exceptional home games. Like, we're going to see the best of Serginho. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, right? Like, because he just, he kind of has been passed over at Barca. A little anger, right? Which wouldn't do him very bad. And then I think the Canada game will be an interesting game to see if we rotate him or kind of what we do with him. And I don't want to speculate about the rotations. You can kind of play that game all day, but we will need to rotate, right? So we're not just going to see the same lineup all 3 games. That's, not a safe thing to do for these guys. And so, I could see Vines being called in. The one guy that I think, Greg will definitely bring in that neither of us have on, and you mentioned him, is Bello. Bello's at this, Phoenix camp, and Greg loves him. I think Greg really loves him. I think he's committed to him as the backup left back in his brain. I hope not, because I agree with you. I haven't seen much out of his performances. I think it's time to give somebody else a run. And for me, Scally's a must because I think he's going to be a key piece of this team. And I think he's going to be a key integral bench fullback. And I want him in. I want him integrated. I want him training. I want him in the environment, right? And so that's kind of where I have Scally. Hey, let's jump into the midfield here, which I think is a really interesting, position for us. We play obviously with the dual 8s. We play with 6s. And so, figuring out 1, how many guys will we bring in? 2, who will it be? I think the starters, MMA, are kind of dialed in right now. I don't think that's changed. I think you're going to see 3 games of MMA. I really do. And then I think it's going to be interesting to see who the backups are. So who do you have as other than MMA, who we know are there? Who do you have kind of behind them?
So I'm going to start with, I think Kalen Acosta is going to get called up. I think Obviously, he just moved to the Galaxy. I think he's a favorite. I have Busio, who I think is going to continue getting called up, and he's getting solid minutes at Venezia. And I have two surprises, and I think for anyone who's been following my conversations at Twitter, the first one is I really hope, and I don't think will happen, but I really hope that Leggett gets left behind and that they call up. And I was hoping actually it was going to be Cole Bassett, but I think with his move to Feyenoord, I don't think he'll come. So I hope that he calls in new blood at a kind of more attacking midfielder position in Mihailovic. And then I have Luca Della Torre, which I think everyone is going to be very surprised that I put him in. But I think that I think the midfield is one area that over 3 games is going to be where there's going to be a little bit of rotation. And I think when we saw 2 qualifying windows ago, when we saw the whole lineup getting, Berhalter changed 10 players. I think it was Panama away. And then the game we lost, we basically put in Leggett, Acosta, Musa, and basically Acosta and Leggett couldn't do very much. So I want to see some new blood there. I don't think both Acosta and Leggett will both get left off the squad. And to be honest, I think Acosta should still be there. So I'm really hoping. But I have Luca there because I think I for one, and I've been giving him a lot of a little bit of sting, and we can talk about it in a second. But I wanted to just I think part of the reason why there's so much back and forth on players like Luca Della Torre and Jordi Mihailovic is it's been a while since we've seen them and have actual solid minutes, especially Mihailovic at the USMNT level. Luca's never really had it because he's just played friendlies, very few minutes in the friendlies and very few minutes in actual World Cup qualifying. So I'd love to see new blood. And then before we kind of discuss it, I put Brendan Aronson in midfield because I think that he can play either as a forward or as a midfielder. But, he can flip-flop each way.
Yeah, I think I don't hate any of it. I've watched more Georgie in the last week than I really ever have. I didn't watch much Montreal this year, just being honest with you. And I went and wanted to dig deeper on him. And the one thing I see out of him is I think in our system, I think he'd be a more progressive and kind of a more progressed set forward attacking 8. You don't see him getting the ball where our 8s get it a lot and advancing it. I think he can do that job. I'd be interested to see him do it. And honestly, we've talked about the 8s a lot on our couple shows, and we need guys there. So I'm down. I think he might fit better up in that half space because he's really good at getting it in that kind of half space number 10 area and creating. And that's where a lot of his best assists and plays and passes come from. So he, like Brendan Aronson, I actually think we haven't had much exposure to Georgie. I think he's another guy that can kind of swing, right? And potentially has the ability to go 8 or winger. And I think Gio's another one, right? Who I think could go 8 or winger. We have a lot of these guys who can flex. And so we'll see if Greg does it. But if you flip over to mine, I have a pretty similar, I think a lot of us do who follow this have pretty similar kind of run out. So I've got on one side, I've got McKennie obviously as the starter with Busio behind him. I've got Musa at the other 8, and I've got Luca, and I actually have Georgie as well there, kind of as a 5th 8 to bring in. Same deal as before, just in case of COVID. And then I've got Adam starting, and then I've got Acosta, and I really would like to see Tessman get a call. I don't think he will, but I would really like to see Tessman get a call for the same reason I'd like to see Scally get a call, for a similar reason, where I think he's starting to prove in Serie A that he has something, right? Now, if we ended up playing him, I'd be a little nervous, right? But I think he could be a guy called in as an insurance policy in case something happens. And honestly, a couple of these guys I wouldn't mind seeing if we, get up, I'll knock on wood here. If we get up 3 or 4-0, it would be really interesting to see some of these guys get their first run, because we need to be able to get some guys in games and get exposure to Scally and Luca and Busio more, and somebody like Georgie. So I really hope we can have a game or two where we're up big and we can get some of these guys in the game. But that's my midfield.
Yeah. Yep. And I was going to say on Tessman, I agree with you. I mean, I didn't put him in mind because I just don't realistically think he's going to get called up.
He won't.
But I think the thing I like most about Tessman is he's different than any of the midfielders that we have. He's still super young, but he is a tower. He's strong. He's built big. He's got really good. He's got decent feet and movement. He has this kind of like Yaya Toure moves that he can do in like tight spaces. His characteristics are completely different than anyone we have. He's good in the air, and he's gaining more confidence. When I saw him, he started with in Serie A for Venezia the other week. I was all excited about it, and he got pulled 34 minutes in because,
Yeah, I saw that.
to be honest, he wasn't even having a great game. But I think the fact that the Venezia coach Zanetti trusts him to start in a game of any magnitude in Serie A, considering it was a relegation battle, I think says a lot. I think it means he has potential. It means that in training he's showing good things, and he consistently comes in off the bench to secure matches. So I think with time, I think Tessman could be the Otasawi type of player that we were looking for, because we all thought Otasawi was that player that could be physical, big. And then the last thing I want to do it, and I just want to make this point, and I don't want to upset anyone when I say it, but the one thing I want to say about Luca and Georgie is, I think between the two, I think Mihailovic deserves the call up a lot more than Luca. I think Georgie had an amazing season at Montreal, and if they would have gotten further in the playoffs, he could have gone for MVP. So if we're going to be calling up players like Acosta and Leggett, who quite frankly, fine, have maybe weaker teams, but I would say on par with Montreal, and they're getting called up, Georgie was a lot better than all of them, had a good amount of goals, a great amount of assists. And I think that's where Luca, who has been starting pretty much every single match this season, right, in a very average league, fine, the Dutch league is probably better than MLS, but Luca has, and I bring this up again, no goals, no assists. Maybe he's progressed the ball, maybe he's moved around, but sometimes stats don't lie. So there has to be something to say about the fact that Mihailovic, who's been, weaker league also than the Dutch league, but has performed and has some great stats, is not getting called up, and people aren't asking for him to get called up over someone like Luca.
Yeah, we'll go into it now. Our second topic is going to be Luca, and we might as well just hash it out before we get to our forwards. So here's the deal, right? A lot of what you were tweeting, I don't disagree with, right? Like, he doesn't have stats. Nobody can argue that, right? The question becomes, which I think the answer is yes, based on everything you've said, do you need an 8, right? An 8, that position, based on our pool, do you need an 8 to be putting up stats in order to show you value on the field?
Yeah, and listen, I think that there's definitely value that's there of whatnot, right? But I also look at from a kind of skill point of view when we're looking at the player pools that we have. Luca on paper looks like he's a decent player in these highlight clips, but I feel like there's something along. He's not going to be scoring, and we don't need him to score every single game or an assist every single game for the U.S. But for me, it looks a little bit problematic. The same way a forward who needs to score, right, is not scoring. I find it
the forward you need to score.
No, I understand. No, I understand that, but I'm saying a forward needs to score. In my opinion, right, a midfielder who's playing 95% of the games as a starter, basically playing 90 minutes every single game, should over 18 appearances have at least one assist.
That's fine, right? But like, the game, right? The game, and that in this game, the difference between 3 assists and 0 assists, it's not much. It could be, honestly, one guy could get unlucky and you could have teammates not finish. Maybe your teammates stink. Maybe you do great things and give the ball up and you don't have teammates in the front who can connect play. And so like that stuff all matters, right? Like if you put Luca De La Torre on Montreal, I don't know if he'd have 15 assists or whatever Georgie did. He'd have some assists though. Like that's just how the MLS works. If you had him doing the exact same plays, exact same actions that he does where he does them, and it's just MLS, so defenses are worse and everything.
But it's not like the Dutch league is that much better. So in other words, if he's playing as much as Mihailovic and he's got, you know what I mean? Like unless we're just calling it bad luck, then what you're saying is Luca De La Torre just has bad luck, and that's why he has 0 assists.
First of all, they're different positions, right? Like De La Torre is playing in almost like a double pivot, but he's the guy that can kind of like advance it forward, right?
But listen, he got man of the match. He
if
got
you're in
man
that
of the
position, you're just not going to get that many assists. You
but
know what I'm saying?
he got man of the match, and I
Yeah.
watched all the highlights, and where he was playing on the pitch was actually very advanced. And I understand he plays a double.
But that's not what he does over and over again. You've watched enough of him to know that.
No,
Like,
no, and I know he plays a
he's
double
not
pivot, but
really
he tends to go up. And the 8 for us at the USMNT level, the same way Musa or anyone who plays that position is asked to go up. So that person's going to be there and have to do it. Again, I'm not saying
But
Luca Del
Musa
Torre.
never gets assists. Never. I mean, Musa does great things, right? And he's different than Luca, but he does great things for us and doesn't has he scored a US goal? The answer is no, right? And
Yes,
he might have like one random assist where he passed the ball sideways and Serginho Dest scored a golazo, right? Like, which has nothing to do with him. And so that's my point, right? Like, people point to stuff like that. Oh, Musa has 2 assists. Well, like, what were the assists? Like, he made a sideways pass and somebody hit like an unbelievable shot. Like, that doesn't impress me, right?
but
But we don't need Musa to get assists. Like, what we need Musa to do is to do what he does. Now, if we're going to be elite, right, we do need more out of our 8s. So I think that's where I agree with you. And I agree with your sentiment, which is like, is Luca the long-term answer at the 8 if he's not going to progress from where he is? Probably not, right? Is Musa if he doesn't progress? Also, maybe not, right? Because I think we do need guys who are going to be able to contribute to goal scoring, right? That's been a big issue for us, right? Is getting goals in some of these games. And so I agree with that, right? But right now, current state of our team, like, and that's all I've been arguing with you about is current state of our team. Luca De La Torre and what he does is very valuable because this all started with my video. And I just put that I think, some of the stuff Luca does mimics some of the stuff that our 8s do who have worked, right? And it's better than the 8s who haven't worked. And so that's what I was going to ask you. But I think your answer is, I think you,
no,
you know,
my answer is I think
Luca. I was going to ask you who else you're going to put in, but you obviously don't have that many guys in over him. You have, Georgie and you have Busio in, which those are both reasonable to me. I'm not, I can't like sit here and go, no. Like, I think Luca's better than Georgie personally. I think he fits what we need out of an 8 better, right? But I have to be honest, right? As much as I want to argue hard against you, I can't sit here and say like, yes, Luca over Georgie, and it's 100%. For me, it's like 80% after watching a lot of them. But Georgie's good, man.
Listen, my context behind the 2 is I have no problem with Luca getting called up. I get my main issue has always been that there's a narrative around him that he has to be called up. He 100% deserves to be on the roster, and he could potentially be a game changer. Now I'm referring to a video that 11 Yanks, I think we've all seen it. He posted and said it was AKA free content. Not sure why anyone would pay for it, but
I said that too, though. I mean, my video, I said the exact same thing, that I think he could be a game changer. So I want to hear your rebuttal to it.
Yeah. So
a lot of us think he can be a game changer, and I'll explain what I mean by game changer. But go ahead. Why do you think he isn't a game changer?
So I think he's a good player, but I don't think there's enough information based on what we've seen at Heracles or any other player that plays in the midfield, right? That he should be there. My whole point is a game changer is someone who can change the game, right? And to be completely honest, at the level that he's playing at in the Dutch league, at the level that he's playing at the amount of minutes he's playing, right? And, he's been doing this for 2 seasons, Heracles. Game-changing things for me, fine. It can be breakthrough pass, but the level he's playing at, he needs to be racking up goals and assists, and he hasn't been doing that. So I don't know why there's this confidence that he can absolutely crush it at the USMNT level.
Here's why he's a game changer for me, right? Mm-hmm. Every single time I see him on the field, every time, like, I mean, he has some bad performances, even against Ajax, where like they just didn't possess the ball. He got almost no touches. You and I were talking about that personally, the Ajax game, right? Like, he did 3 or 4 awesome progressive things. He also lost the ball a bunch, right? Because they had him under pressure. And, honestly, everybody in the team was crumbling in that game. It's one of those games. It's kind of unfair. It's like blaming Weah and Musa during the Panama game, which some people did. They're like, Weah and Musa stunk. And to me, it's like, I know who the best players on Heracles are because I've watched them a decent amount. And I know he's one of their best players pretty consistently. And he didn't have a good game that game. So I'm not going to go, well, he couldn't play against Ajax, so no way he can help us out. We're talking about playing against El Salvador. I don't need him playing against Mexico. I don't want him playing against Mexico. He's going to be playing against El Salvador as a rotational guy, or Honduras as a rotational guy, or Panama as a rotational guy. And so the way he's a game changer for me, he's a game changer because we need guys in those positions when we can't go to our best guys who can actually take the ball, right, from on that field that you see from where the Adams marker is to where the Pulisic marker is, and then give the ball to Pulisic in the final third where he can do what he does best, right? And what we've had is we've had Acosta and we've had Leggett and we've had Roldan, and those guys can't get the ball from point A to point B consistently. And so a game changer for me is anyone who can get the ball through there consistently, right? Now, is he going to be a game changer in the sense that he's going to score a bunch of goals? And no, I don't think that at all, right? I'm not even sure many people that, that have been fighting with you think that. I just think what we think is that he can be better than what we have. And to me, that's a game changer, right? And even like Busio's skill set's different. I think Busio's strengths are different. But I think because of how we play and what we need, I think Luca would be better than Busio. Busio also hasn't been great in his call-ups, and he's had a lot more minutes than Luca. And so when you're asking me if it's like, hey, this game, we need somebody to come in for McKennie and do the job, for me, that's Luca. And I think it's Luca because he's just shown me the exact things that I want to see out of the 8, right? And it's not goals and assists for me. I don't need him to – he could play the fixed 5 games, right, subbing in, and if he didn't have a goal or assist, I'm fine, right, if he does what he's done. Is there a guarantee he'll do that against high-level competition? No, right? But all I've seen is him do it against very like competition. Do you think the Dutch league is a lower level than El Salvador?
I think it's. I mean, listen, I think anyone can probably get the job done against El Salvador.
No,
I think
we just tied them 0-0.
But this, I think in the next game when we're going to be playing at home, I think that coming off the bench, again, you're saying coming off the bench, that's an easier game to kind of get a good performance in, right? I think when Busio came in against Jamaica, when we had a 2-0 lead, I think those were great minutes that he had there. And he brought possession. He played next to an Adams, which I thought, and people have not been talking a lot, but I think that's going to be a great partnership. So actually, if you have somebody come in for a McKennie who's a little bit more attacking, that has defensive qualities, he gets exhausted, having someone like Busio might be.
If somebody subs in against an El Salvador team and we're up, that's going to be an easy situation for anyone. That's not what I actually meant. What I meant is, let's say game 2, game 3, it's like, hey, we played Musa both games. We can't play him again. He's a little bit banged up. Yeah. Somebody has to come in, right? That's the situation I'm talking about, where it's like, this is either a 0-0 game you're subbing into, and defense is tight, and we got to break it down.
Well, that's where I would be. That's where I would be impressed if something Luca. I personally think in a game against Canada, if he started, my judgment on him as a player, right? Because of the stature that he has. Another thing that he lacks is physicality, right? He's a much quicker guy. He's not a ball winner 8. Like Musa's great at winning the ball because he's a fast as hell and he's strong for his age, and he's only going to get stronger and bigger. McKennie has that same thing. And although Adams is not the tallest guy, I don't think anyone can compare the physicality that Adams can bring with somebody like Luca. Luca, in me, is somebody you give the ball to, he can move around, he can get by his player, and that's why a double pivot actually works for him, or if he's a little bit up higher in the pitch. I don't think he can replicate what a McKennie can do. I don't think a Busio can do what a McKennie can do either. But I do
need those guys to do that. We need those guys to, right? Like, nobody's going to replicate McKennie.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, or even like that you said, I'm saying from a starting position. So again, would I be comfortable with Luca being a good replacement for Musa in a game and could potentially do the same things?
Compared to who else we had?
I think he can do. No, I again, honestly, against a team like Canada, and you can shoot me for saying this, I would rather have somebody who's more physical and can win the ball, like an Acosta, over. Ooh.
Oh no!
Over Luca, yeah, I would.
Oh gosh! You're saying you would Costa at the 8? I mean, that's been nothing but trash. Like, we haven't had a good performance with Acosta at the 8.
I don't think. Listen, I think when he played his minutes against Mexico in the Nations League together with better players like Adams and McKennie, he did okay.
He was at the 6, which I think is okay.
No, he was with. Listen, he was moving around when Adams came in. He moved into more of an 8,
He moved to the left back. He moved to the left back. No, I'm pretty sure he
started. He played a little bit in the midfield, and then eventually, whenever whoever was playing on left, whoever got booted out, he moved all the way left back.
Much at the 8 that game. He was solid at the 6. I think he can do that job at the 6. He still struggles a bit with helping us progress the ball. He's just not consistent. He's so inconsistent. One game he's like pretty good at it. The next game he's atrocious at it.
Yeah.
Acosta is a disaster to me. I don't even care about the physicality. We just don't consistently get the ball up the field when he's there. Like, and if we have Adams, you're saying we're going to have Adams and McKinney and we need a replacement for Musa. To me, it's got to be Busio or De La Torre right now.
Listen, I don't think to be honest, I don't think anyone can do exactly like you said before, exactly what a Musa can do. He's just a particular player.
Who's going to be best for us, right? We know we can't replace those guys 100%.
But I think that we've seen, and that's what I said. I personally would probably play against a team like Canada, a double pivot with Adams and Acosta that are a little bit more defensive and push McKennie a little bit forward. I don't think we could ever rely on Acosta playing an 8 and going all the way up and down. I don't want to see a Leggett. I think a Mihailovic would be a toss up. And again, why
not put Busio or Luca out there, right? Like I said, I think Luca for me is a notch above Busio in terms of who I would like to see and who I think could actually like do that job. But that could change in a month, right? These guys are young. Like Busio is getting a lot better every day. Like
a different team, yes. Against Canada, I would like to have. We
know the Acosta is not going to work though. Like we know that. That's been proven out. Like the Acosta is not going to equal good. It's just not against Canada.
I don't think he's played in the double pivot with Adams, with McKennie a little bit up front. And again, and I'm saying this versus actual opponents that I think Canada are going to be a lot, or performance-wise are going to be extremely hard team to play. We're playing away. They're full of confidence. They're going to be extremely motivated. And again, listen, I'm not really
we're going to change to a double pivot against Canada, like something we haven't done a lot. And we're going to like have Adams and Acosta playing this double pivot that they've never really played together, right? They don't now know how to really relate with McKennie in the same way. Like that's my problem is like, if you want to say that system would be better, like that's okay. I don't think we could do that just out of the blue. Like this team is not good at system changes. Every single time we've tried to go to something different, we fail because we're young. We haven't played together enough. We don't know how to like tactically adjust like that. I just see failure every time we've tried to do that. And so like, this is where I'm coming from. I don't think we can change what we're doing. And because I think when we do, it's terrible, right? A lot of people want to just go like 3 at the back with a double pivot. I know that's not what you're saying, but a lot of people argue that all the time. And my argument back to that is like, when have we seen that be close to good? And we haven't invested enough time in friendlies into getting guys on the same page with it for it to be good. And so that's my issue with, I think, what you're saying, just.
But I also feel like we did try it a little bit in the Gold Cup. Listen, I don't know what he's going to try in against Canada. To be honest, we don't have. That is a big issue. I think if you look at exactly what McKennie and Musa and Adams can do as a 3, and I think you brought this up in your video, right? I think your opinion is Luca can come in for Musa or McKennie. I think this is what I understand, and can potentially do.
He has to come in, and I'll say exactly it so you can kind of rebuttal it.
Yeah.
If he has to come in for either of those guys, he's my guy that can give us 80% of what they do and kind of like a version of what they do. He's definitely, there's no doubt there are shortcomings defensively. He's not going to replicate a lot of what they do in certain areas, but I think he can at least help us progress the ball forward, which seems to be the issue when they're out.
Yeah. So my opinion is I have to see Luca. I don't think he's going to be a great player to play against a more skillful team like a Canada team. I think he could potentially do it against an El Salvador at home or against Honduras at home, potentially. But I don't think he's got the physical, offensive, and defensive attributes. I think that I think that Berhalter in the end might figure out how to get Acosta into that lineup against a team like Canada. I think Busio might be a safer bet. He's not going to give you what Musa can give. But I'm open.
Canada's going to sit back against us, dude. They're going to just sit back. They're going to do exactly what they did last game. Now they don't have Davies. They're going to sit way back against us. We need guys to pick locks, which is actually a decent argument for Busio, right? Who's probably the best.
I don't know if they're going to sit back. I'm curious to see what they're going to do because they're playing at home.
I think they're going to try and catch us on the counter. I mean, I don't know why they would change it. We could not.
Without Davies, I don't know if they can play a counter attacking without Davies. I think there's the thing right there. So
I mean, They got Laren, they've got Buchanan, they've still got the forwards. Right? I mean, there's still a lot of pieces there to play counterattacking. I don't think they can come to us without Davies. I don't think they can come bring the game to us. If they do, I would be ecstatic about that. I would be ecstatic about them trying to bring the game to us. That means there would be open field for us to play in, which is what we lack in every bad performance. Any game teams give us open field to play in, pretty much exclusively, we thrive. We thrive, you know?
Well, I am very curious because I am very curious what I think one part of what's going to happen in this over the next 3 games is going to be the type of players and lineups that Berhalter does, because I think for the first game you want to make sure you get that win, right? So you don't want to in a way you want to put your best lineup out there, right?
Yeah.
But then for your second game, you almost want to do the same thing because this is going to be your hardest opponent. But if we get a draw or God forbid we lose, right, then do you really put again your best lineup in again at home? You probably could still get it done. But if you do lose the game against Canada, which is not completely off the charts, because quite frankly, we've struggled away against everybody. Even that Honduras game where we came back, whether we had our best possible lineup, we pulled an amazing second half. And they were exhausted, and we turned that into a win. But every other game we've played away, we've been rubbish. And now we're going to be playing outside of Mexico. But I would argue that Canada are in better form than Mexico right now. Right? We're going to be playing the hardest match of all the matches we're going to potentially away in Canada. They're going to be super motivated.
It's going to be a hard game. Without Davies, they're a different team, though. They really – I mean, I don't know exactly what they're going to look like, but I know they're a different team without him. I mean, he's a game changer. He's the best player in CONCACAF. He totally shifts what you have to do defensively. He attracts so much attention to him that it makes life easier on all those other guys. So I'm really interested to see how all those other guys play when they don't have, honestly, the magnet, the gravity force field that is Alphonso Davies. And like a lot of what opens up in the middle and on the right side for them, right? And this is like where I think like Buchanan's good, but like when the threat of Davies is down the left, you get opportunities on the right. And so I'm interested to see that. I think that's going to be, but we could save some of this stuff for hopefully a preview episode next week. I want to say this, our conversation about Luca, Busio, kind of who fits at that 8. I think it's all moot because I actually don't believe Greg is going to bring Luca or Georgie. I think he will bring Busio. I think he's pretty in on him. I think we're going to see Leggett and I think we're going to see Roldan. They're both in Phoenix. And not to put a damper on the conversation, but I think we're going to see MMA, but then I think we're going to see as the backups, Leggett, Roldan, Busio, kind of same old. I think this is what he's kind of building. He's building this as the guys he likes and the rotation he likes. So it was a fun conversation while it lasted, but I think we're going to see the lineup come out.
Well, I do hope that Berhalter has, and I'm going to say this, the balls to drop one of those guys out, and so we can see some new blood. Totally, whether that's Luca, whether that's Georgie, whether that's Tessman, but one of those guys that have been, deserve a call up or are within the pool, right? Should get a call, and we should hopefully see some new blood, because if we keep seeing Leggett and we keep seeing Roldan come in there and do absolutely nothing. And I have to defend Acosta because I think he's had some good games and I think he's had some bad games. But I think that he more so than the other two. I would say over the last 6 games, Leggett and Roldan have done very little, even though Leggett did get a goal against Honduras. But Acosta has at least been a little bit more consistent in coming in.
Acosta is as bad as those guys at the 8. I'm telling you, Cal. Like he has value because we don't have a backup 6 right now, and he can like serviceably do that job. And he's actually had some amazing games doing that job. But I'm telling you, I've watched a lot of him. I know I only posted the Leggett clips, but I watched Leggett, Roldan, him. I watched everybody who's played the 8. Busio, watched a ton of Busio. Busio's better than those guys. He is. Like Busio has done more like bright things than those guys at the 8. And helps us far more. So, hey, let's move on from the midfield, though. Let's go up to the forward line. While mine's up, I'll run you through my forwards real quick. So I've got Pepe at the 9. I've got Pulisic on the left. I've got Aronson at the right. I think Aronson can flex right and left. I've seen him play on the right side kind of early in his tenure at Salzburg. He was playing more on the right. But you see him on both sides when you watch Salzburg as well. He can do it, right? He'll be totally fine on that side. He'll bring the pressure that he brings. He'll bring 70, 80% of the runs that Weah gives us. He's good making those runs behind. So I'm excited to see him there, right? I think it's going to be his time to really shine. I think Weah has kind of passed him for me in the last couple windows. And I think this is Aronson's time to kind of, get some of that shine back. I expect a massive window out of Brendan Aronson. I think he's going to play really well. I think he's going to have some big moments, whether it be assist goals, goal creations. So I'm excited about it. Weah was back, right? Played, I think, 30 minutes off the bench for Lille. And so I expect to see Weah in camp. I don't think we start him, though, game one. Maybe game two he comes back in. I expect him to get minutes off the bench and kind of be a super sub here. I do think he's our starter still. I just think coming off injury, might see us be conservative with him. And then on the other side, I'm going with Jordan Morris. And I know I might get some hate for this, but I don't need – I think Weah, Aronson, and Pulisic can take all of the wing minutes throughout the window, the majority of them, right? And I think we need somebody who can come in and reliably do a job, but still be dangerous going forward, right? Areola can do a job. He can do a defensive job. I think Areola is good at what he does. I don't like Areola because he's not creative enough. I think Morris gives you a little more of a threat going forward. I think you can put Morris on the right across from Pulisic, and he's going to, at least make dangerous runs and be a goal-scoring threat. On top of doing some of the defensive work. And right now, honestly, Conrad's played 10 minutes in the last 2 months or something like that, right? So our other options there are just so thin. I've seen some people put Hoppy out there, he's barely played. I want somebody who has, been training with us. I know he hasn't played games, but he's been training with us. He's been active. So Morris is kind of I'd say my shocking one I didn't expect to have in, but when I really broke it down, I put him in there. And then my backup nines, I have two purposes that I want to back up 9 for. I think Pepe's our 9, and I think we're going to bring in somebody for Pepe late in the game when we need a goal or when we need to secure a lead. And so when I kind of thought about this context, I was like, if we need a goal, I feel best about Daryl DK right now, even over PFOC. I've seen a lot of people put PFOC instead of DK, and I know PFOC's had some goal-scoring form there. I like what DK does in the box a little more than PFOC, honestly. I think he can give you one of those 18-yard blasts at a little bit of a different level than I've seen PFOC do it. PFOC's a little bit more of a poacher and needs other guys to kind of create it. I think DK can still go get some of those poached header goals, but he can kind of create something out of nothing, right, when he just gets the ball in the box. And so I like that as a potential late game need a goal sub. And then honestly, I did not expect to have Sargent in here at all. I've been, down on him for the last 5 months, but if we're up by 1 at Canada, I started to think to myself, who would I want to sub in for Pepe late game to secure the game? And Josh Sargent was the first name that came to my mind. I couldn't think of anybody else I'd even want to really sub in that case because we don't need a goal at that point, which isn't his strength, but we need somebody to do the defensive work, right, and to be a pest and to track back. And that's what Sargent does. He does that probably better than any forward in our pool. So that's my front line. Where do you differ from me, Cal?
I personally think that what's it called? I agree everywhere with you. I think Pepe is definitely by far our number 9. I did have Sargent in my roster as well because I think he can play potentially right wing if we need him to, and he can play a couple of positions. I'm not comfortable with him playing the 9 anymore. I did have Zardes. I think he's going to call Zardes because he's in the camp. He trusts him more. DK just made his move from West Brom to West Bromwich, and maybe wants him to continue to get acclimatized there.
Who would you call? Would you call Zardes, or would you call what 9s would you call?
I mean, I think if I could call anybody, I don't know. It's tough for me because I feel like the number 9 because Pepe's good and it's you feel like he's going to score and he's got confidence and he's young. But I feel like all the other 9s that we have all have kind of major issues. So I feel like DK is fast and he's furious. And if we could add a 24th player to our final World Cup roster, if that was allowed, I'd have DK because he can bust heads. But his technical qualities are not great.
For sure. I don't want him in for more than 20 minutes, honestly. Because
right.
I think you can't do certain things connecting with him, for sure. I agree with that.
And then same thing with Sargent. I think Sargent just is not a pure number 9 and just can't pull the trigger at sometimes. I know he can do other things okay. And then I think Zardes, same thing there. I think he's okay. He's just not a.
I'm gonna go gun to the head with you right now, right? Bolt to your brain. You got
as a backup center forward. Well, that's what I think. I think as a backup center forward. Honestly, if this was a World Cup, I would probably call up DK, and then I would have Sargent as those three center forwards, because I feel like Sargent could also play different positions. He could play
Yeah.
at the right wing and things like that.
Wing.
Those would be my three. I think the other guy's P Folk, and I think he's good. He's also good, but I think he's if we're going to be throwing tons of balls into the box and trying to do a lot of set pieces and playing a different way, I think he's good for that. But the way the U.S. plays with a lot of ball on the ground needs to be kind of in different positions and needs to press and run a lot. I don't think BFOC has those qualities right now.
Yeah. He's just worse defensively too. And so is DK. Like those guys are drastically worse when we're pressing and tracking back. Like those guys don't do the same job. So yeah, what about winger? Where do you kind of differ?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm convinced with Aronson as a right wing. I'm trying to remember if he played that position at the U.S. level, maybe against Costa Rica friendly or something like that.
I don't think much, but he has for Salzburg, and he's looked good. He's looked fine.
Yeah.
Like
so,
a lot of what he does, like he's not a cut in on his right foot and take a bender guy. Like he does it occasionally, but like he can get a lot of stuff done where it doesn't really matter what side he's on. So that's kind of why I had him over there. But you're right, he hasn't done that for us for sure.
I think I don't mind him there if he plays as a way that Arena would, right? Which is essentially you can start in the wing, you can give them the ball there, but he can also grab the ball in the middle, right, and then leave some space for Musa and Dest to hit up that area. I think Weah is your more traditional right wing where he's going to attack the wings, use his speed, and get a cross in. Aronson has some of those qualities, but I think he's the best when he can get the ball in tight spaces, get by someone, and then dish. I mean, he's the epitome of what I wish Luca de la Torre could do more, because when you've seen Aronson at Salzburg this last season, man, I mean, like assists, goals, he's like a little bit everywhere. I know he's a much more forward typing player, but I feel like Aronson really has that good final pass. But I agree with you. I mean, I think the lineup that you have here in front of us, I think I 100% agree. The only change I would make to this lineup, and I think Berhalter is playing Richards with Robinson will probably be the starting center back. I'm not sure if Brooks is going to come back to the team and then right away start. Maybe he will, but I feel like if they want to continue the momentum from the Mexico game, they could potentially, play those guys there, because obviously the last game they played was against Jamaica away. It was Zimmerman. He didn't do that well. And Brooks and Robinson and Richards had a good feel. And also it's going to be a game that we're most likely going to win at home.
Yeah. So my big triple G differences here, I think we will see Paul Arriola. I think we will see Jesus Ferreira. I think we will see Giassi Zardes. I think he's going to go pretty heavy on the Phoenix roster. I think that's who Triple G is. He's a comfort level guy. He's had 2 to 3 weeks training with these guys. And I think he's going to believe we've got this training under us, right? And I've got these guys where I want them. And I think when it comes to picking between a DK, right, who's just made a move, and that's the other point about DK, right? He literally just made a move. It might not even be best for him to come into this, but I see him going with Zardes over DK or Sargent. I see him going with Arriola I could see him going with Arriola and Morris, actually, and kind of going a little bit deeper at the wing and only going with 2 strikers, Zardes and Pepe. So or I could see him going with Ferreira instead of Sargent, right? Because that just seems to be where his comfort level's at. And so some big changes between what we see in front of us and what you showed on yours, Cal, and what I think he'll do. I think Leggett, Roldan in the midfield, and I think Arriola, Ferreira, Zardes, those will be the big differences, and potentially Aaron Long. I think those will all be, and Bello, right? Those seems to be like some Greg guys right now that I'm interested to see. Does he move away from them even after bringing them into this camp, right? Or is he just saying, hey, this camp was cool, but, we're going to bring 3 guys from it. I feel like he's going to bring 6, 7 guys from it. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. Let's wrap it here. Appreciate everybody who watched, listened, chimed in. This has been a blast. I can't wait for games. I think we are, officially 7 days out tomorrow, I believe. So it's we're here, we're back, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And we'll be back at it hopefully next week with another episode before the South Salvador game. May have a special guest who's going to come in and help us break down that team. So excited for that. Appreciate everyone. And Cal, man, great talking football with you, my guy.
Thank you, my friend. Ciao, everyone.